Hello and welcome everyone, it is me, the Lover, also known as Duel, back for you with another video and another event deck profile. Before we dig into, get into a bit of TCG deck profiles in the next week, let's talk about the Under 5 event and the Morphtronic list I played for it. Man, Konami really, heard me talking too much shit, and they were like, yep, here's an event where there's even less to do for the deck. I would like to think of myself as someone that has, kinda tried his hardest to make things work for the different events this year, especially the Fusion one. But man, when the only thing you can do is, Naturia Beast pass, it's rough. So we're going to talk about the list. I'm going to show you, a couple replays that might not be, too great, but I will admit most of my games weren't too great that event. And I'm kind of glad it's all over. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the list. Starting off with, as per usual, 3 Morphtronics Alphon. This is the main man when it comes to your Morphtronic lists. As an attack position, you can roll a 6-sided die, reveal that many cards from the top of your deck, and then special and excavated level 4 or lower Morphtronic from those cards, being, the main tool that gets you the board presence, and also to, of course, a good bit of extra deck plays. Mainly, some of the rank 1s you're seeing in this extra deck here. Out of which I'm definitely not playing these two just to show off royals. Next up, Vacuuman. Pretty simple, removal tool while in defense. This is basically relinquished. It gets to equip itself with a face-up attack position monster the opponent controls. Can only be equipped once. Sadly, doesn't gain any protection or attack from it, but, it is removal, which is nice. Morphtronic Smartphone, similar to Cellphone. Rolls a die, excavates top cards, but instead of summoning Morphtronic monsters, you're able to add an excavated Morphtronic card from those to your hand. And on top of that, it is a level 1 tuner that you can special summon from your hand, or have to first special summon from your hand by banishing a Morphtronic from the grave, which is why it's very nice that Cellphone ignores summoning conditions. Next up, the infamous one, Telephone. 1 attack, roll a die, gain life, and then you can special a Morphtronic from the grave with a level equal to or lower than the result. Yeah, I suppose for the uninitiated, this means that if you have one on the board, one in the grave, and the one on board is live, you can probably do a lot of silly nonsense with links. This way, it is just a great bit of extension. Even if you're just summoning back the same name, a 3 or 4 Mad Ounce and Blue Robin is still a very potent piece of endboard interaction. Next up, we have Remoten, the thing that gets you to Imperial Order. But also allows you to basically toolbox through your Morphtronics in a very neat way. While in attack position, you can target a Morphtronic in grave, banish the target, and if you do, you add a Morphtronic with the same level as that monster from your deck to your hand. So basically, you just get to, at any point in time, trade one of these, level 1s you have in a grave for one that you might need, in your hand at that current point in time. A good way to get those out of the hand is something like Morphtronic Repair Unit, for example. Went with 3 Gadget Gamer, this time without the Hauler, this time just for consistency's sake, and also because that's a level 3 that you can machine dupe. So you have ways to more consistently make a Levier. In theory, I did not make Levier once. The entire extra deck is we're gonna talk about it, but yeah, Gadget Gamer on summon adds you a level 1 machine monster, which you're playing quite a couple of. And you contribute it to special a Morphtronic from hand, and then you can special a Gadget Hauler from hand or deck. Figured I would not play the Garnet, because this time there is actually no benefit to it, because you're not even making a Link 2 off of this guy. Played Staples, a Raigeki, a Duster, and a Reborn. The Duster was crazy. I think I won 2 or 3 games just off of Activate Duster for 3 back row, and the opponent just immediately scooped. 3 machine duplication, target a machine with 500 or less attack, you special 2 monsters from the deck with the same name as that face-up monster. The deck is jam-packed with targets. Essentially, the only one that is not a target is Smartphone. And yeah, from there on out, it's a great piece of extension into, the rank 1s, into some other synchro plays, allowing you to abuse the fact that most of these guys are soft ones per turn because they've been printed pre-2014. So, there's a lot of nonsense, of course, to be had here. 1-for-1 for some additional consistency and extension. Junk Box, just a simple reborn spell. You target a level 3 or lower, level 4 lower Morphtronic in the grave. special it, but it gets destroyed during the end phase. Doesn't really matter when you're using that for an extra deck summon. The 1 triple tactics talent you are allowed to play, 3 copies of Morphtronic Converter. This targets a machine you control, and depending on the battle position that monster had, you can apply one of the following effects. The one you're going to use most likely is the attack position one, which is you special Morphtronic from your deck with a different name than the one you targeted. And then you place your initial target back on top. This is a great way, especially if you're not targeting Southon, to potentially reset soft once per turn, as you're able to summon a Southon from deck, put the Morphtronic you probably use the effect of back on top of your deck, and have, you know, an immediately guaranteed hit off of Southon, which is pretty nice. Repair unit. Also a fairly simple card. This is just an archetypal premature burial. You discard a Morphtronic from your hand to the grave, and then you can target a Morphtronic in your grave, and then special summon that target and equip it with this card. The 2 Caught by the Grave against hand traps, and the 3 Forbidden Droplets here to help us have a bit more game going second. And now we get to the extra deck. I am looking at 15 cards here, but out of these 15 cards, I can assure you I made a grand total of maybe 5 or 7. It was rough. I'm playing a Formula Synchron as just a upstart goblin, because there wasn't a whole lot of other like options. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna make this. Zapper Shrimp is like spell and trap removal you can potentially make. Merry Malfeas is monster removal you can potentially make. Earphone is the thing you make on your way to Naturia Beast. Musashi's cool, in theory. I think I made Musashi once. Adds you back a machine. If you don't have a spell trap in the grave, you can't special or normal that monster or use effects that turn. Otherwise, it's a super heavy. So this is basically just something that gives you follow-up. And I'm playing something that I thought was cool in Infinite Knight Captain Oliver. Because if this guy declares an attack while equipped, you can target a face-up card on the field, destroy it. Basically meaning if you ladder throw Earphone, you can equip the Earphone to the Captain Oliver, because Earphone from the grave can equip itself to a Synchro monster you control. And then get a pop in. I think I pulled that off once. So yeah. We're playing a Draco Future package, because the deck does make rank 1s fairly easily. So I'm on a Sylvan Princess Sprite. You can just make turn 1 fairly easily. This is just a rank 1 that lets you detach a material, excavate the top card of your deck. If it's a spell trap, you add it to your hand. Otherwise, it gets sent to the grave. The deck does like work fairly well with the graveyard, so you don't really mind the mill usually. And you know, the chance of like spiking Extender off the top, kind of nice, you know. Gotta get it twisted, and also it's, you know, 1/2 of, you know, Utopic Future, so you can make Draco Future. The other half usually is Assembled Nightingale, which is basically just here on the basis that it's a level 1 and I have a Royal, so, you know. It was previously saying not here because I want to show off Royals. I lied. Anyways, Draco Future, just a monster negate you can make off of, you know, 2 rank 1s hitting the board. Awesome Blue Robin is basically Apollosa if she was like a Compulse, which is kind of cool. Gains 500 for each material, and if your opponent specials a monster, you can detach a material, target you know, one of those special summon monsters, and it gets returned to the hand. Levier is something you can make in theory, because you do banish like a couple cards off a smartphone remote, and you even have targets for this, and making this off of like a machine you promote is pretty good. In case I was making this, I was on like a Download Vesperado package, but it never came up. So yeah, with that depressing as extra deck out of the way, let's take a look at those replays and get even more sad. Oh, it's fixed, thank goodness. We're starting off with a game against Exo Sister. My opponent is definitely not opening the greatest of hands here. Going Irene set to pass. I basically forced the back row out here by activating Harpy's Feather Dust. The opponent adds a Martha for the follow-up as I go 1 for 1, discarding what was a Remoten for a Southon before I do the foolish mistake of moving a card out of the graveyard against Exo Sister. Smartphone hits the board here, reveals a Telephone as I make a Princess Sprite, which my opponent immediately attempts to, you know, negate. But luckily, I can still, you know, detach for cost, which means I can normal the Telephone, bring back the Southon, and keep going from there. Vacuumin doesn't do a whole lot here, sadly. But what Vacuum at the very least does is it can be a machine monster in attack position, and that is kind of all I need here, because I can go for a converter, use the telephone here to bring back the telephone, and use the telephone here to bring back Southon to, you know, get another shot at just getting a Morphtronic out of the deck. Pick up the Southon here in the hopes that I hit a Remoten off the top, which is a wish that is not granted to me. But I can at least go into combat. Draco Future clears the Irene as Awesome Blue Robin and Southon get in for a bit of direct damage. Opponent reveals Martha in hand. I do decide to negate that. Should have maybe just bounced that when it hit the field, but oh well. At least the Awesome Blue Robin has a target, so you know that is quite something. But yeah, goddamn, lighting situation, terrible. As I Raigeki the Martha off the board, my opponent flips a copy of Vadas, which doesn't really disturb me here. Just kind of Southon, going in the Earphone here, not using the effect to, you know, move something out of the graveyard. And just trying to essentially play around the Exorcister names not tagging out. As you know, I run over the whole crew just by combat and start, you know, just going off into like more plays main 2. My opponent decides to pick up their cards, and this is the end of the game. But yeah, with that out of the way, I think we do have quite a bit of time to go through the other 2 replays I have and hope they are slightly less bad. Well, this is just a 1-turn replay, so I think we're just going to let this one run, I suppose. Southon gets immediately hit with an Ash Blossom as I go to hit a Monster Reborn here. Bringing back the Ash, making Nearphone, turning the Junk Box live because suddenly I got a Morphtronic into the grave, which means the Southon is live and I can keep going. Smartphone's a great reveal here because potentially I can find an extender, which I do, so we immediately turn the Earphone and the Smartphone into a Naturia Beast, which is also, yeah, the one thing this deck was supposed to be doing this event. Then we hit another Southon, get another Smartphone on the board off of the second Southon. Smartphone goes to reveals for another Southon, and I turn the 3 level 1s into Awesome Blue Robin, attempting to equip the Earphone in the end phase. And I think at this point my opponent reads Naturia Beast, sees no 1s per turn on that card, and decides to move on because their time is more precious to them. But I really hope the last replay is better. Guys, I swear this event was good. Guys, I swear. Well, let's hope 2 turns are a bit more interesting than 1. Opponent goes Lantern Shark set to pass, which I'm not too bent out of shape about. As I can, you know, kind of just activate Southon and fish for interaction because I have a machine duplication in hand. And from here on out, things do get a wee bit silly. First one hits a remote, and second one doesn't hit anything as I turn the, you know, 2 that have now used their effect into a Princess Sprite, trying to find another extender off the top. I don't, which means I can turn this remote and the Southon into an Earphone after grabbing an, you know, follow-up in the form of Telephone, because that's just a great normal summon to have on the follow-up. As I hit a converter off the top here, which is kind of crazy, and this is the one instance where I did make Knight Captain Oliver. I'm so happy about that. And he immediately got Ice Barriered and crashed and died, which was great. So I have to run over the Lantern Shark with the Princess Sprite, using the Smartphone here to extend, grab another name for the follow-up, in this case just a Converter, see where this takes me, as I pull a Telephone out of the deck here in exchange for that Smartphone. The Southphone knows it's gonna hit, because it knows where it isn't, but, you know, Smartphone is on top, so we know that there is something there. We turn 2 of these into Assembled Nightingale because I want to get the Princess Sprite off the board. So I'm making the Draco Utopic line again. Using the Junk Box here, bringing back Telephone, just kind of seeing how I can high roll my opponent to death. And with an Earphone in the grave, I have a Nat Beast line here for the follow-up, which prompts my opponent to scoop. Or no, which prompts their connection to go out. I guess Naturia Beast negated this guy's internet connection. Oh, now I know why I included this replay, because I technically was playing against myself. But yeah, with that out of the way, we're gonna take a look at the deck and wrap this one up. With my slowly declining camera because one of the bulbs in the... Well, one of the light bulbs in my room just decided to stop working. So we're gonna have to work with 20 FPS me here for the rest of the video. Man, this was rough. I do like to rag on link events, especially if, you know, there's not a whole lot of things to do. But man, Konami really said, you think those link events have nothing you can do? How about this? This really was rough, because this also felt like an event that was like fairly like tailor-made for like, you know, rank 4 strategies, or like in general, you know, the Malphys, the Pearlies, the you know, the Sharks, the Sue ships of the world. And this deck just is none of those. But, you know, sometimes generic extra deck pieces are decent enough and accessible enough with, you know, a bit of work so that you can kind of make it work. But I feel like the most amount of work definitely were like, you know, the one-off blowouts I included. Otherwise, whew, I think I would have spent another day or two sitting at this event, which wouldn't have been great, admittedly. But with all that out of the way, before, you know, my camera decides to get even worse, I will be thanking you very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you guys again next time. But until then, goodbye.